When I think Pulte Homes, I think of a builder with mid-range pricing, a national builder, a builder who can get you into some nice communities at a lower price tag. But there's a lot more about Pulte than that, and we're going to dig into all of that today, okay? Starting out with one of the most important things you probably wouldn't even think to ask, which is, can I trust this builder? You walk into a gorgeous model home and it screams credibility. I mean, it's gorgeous, it looks high quality. But back in the 2008 bust, okay, I saw so many builders with gorgeous model homes go completely bankrupt. Like all those owners, ultimately, they had no warranty, they had no recourse, and often, a really cheaply built house. So kind of because of that, just having seen all that happen, I always like to start my builder review videos at ground zero, okay? Can I trust this builder? So let's talk about that. First thing you should know is Pulte Homes is one of the biggest names in home building, and their track record proves it, okay? They've built over 800,000 homes since they got started way back in 1950. Now, just in 2024 alone, okay, Pulte Group, which includes Pulte Homes, Centex, and Del Webb, closed more than 31,000 homes and brought in about $17 billion in revenue. So that kind of volume puts them on the top tier of national builders. They're currently building in 26 states, stretching coast to coast from California to Florida to Pennsylvania, obviously a lot of places in between. So no matter where you're looking, okay, there's a good chance Pulte has a community nearby. Over the years, Pulte has picked up a ton of industry recognition, including being named Builder of the Year by the Florida Green Building Coalition in 2020. That's a pretty big deal considering it's based on leadership in green building practices. So right off, if energy efficiency matters to you, okay, that's something worth noting. But let's go ahead and answer that big question that every buyer needs to be asking. How likely are they to be around in 5 years? Okay, well, I would say extremely likely. They've got over 70 years under their belt, 30,000 plus homes sold annually, and operations in 26 states. So this isn't a builder that's folding anytime soon. Now, what recourse will you have if something goes wrong? Well, with a company this size and this established, there are going to be systems in place, for warranty coverage, customer care, and structured support. So now, how financially well backed are they? Well, incredibly, all right? A $17 billion annual revenue shows you have a builder with financial stability. So in terms of trust, backing, and long-term reliability, all right, Pulte gets an easy A+ in my book. Now, if you were driving through a Pulte Homes neighborhood, you would see they've got a decent range of houses to choose from. They've got both 1- and 2-story homes available. Depending on the community, you might see more of one type than the other, but most neighborhoods offer a pretty good mix of both. Let's talk about what some of those homes actually look like, okay? One of them might be a 2-story with a combination of stone and siding, a gabled roof, and a front-facing garage with windows directly above. There's also a 2-story structure with a steep gabled roof and a covered front porch. Nice use of columns with this one. You might also see another 2-story design featuring a covered entryway and a front-facing garage topped with a gable roof. Then there's a 2-story home with a mix of light brick and stone accented with black trim and varied roof lines. When it comes to garages, Pulte typically sticks with 2-car setups for most of their homes, though their larger floor plans sometimes will allow for a 3-car garage option, kind of depending on the community. Inside, you're not going to see over-the-top luxury, but you will see tastefully built homes with open floor plans. For overall style diversity, okay, a lot of their floor plans share similar architecture and roof lines, but they do mix in enough details like different trims, porch layouts, material combos to keep things from looking too repetitive. So variety and curb appeal, okay? I would give Pulte's exterior options a solid B+. But what would it look like if you wanted to build from the ground up? Okay, well, obviously you'd start with choosing a floor plan. Well, if you're looking to Pulte's floor plans, don't expect to find one giant master list on their website. Instead, Pulte organizes their floor plans by community, which means if you want to get a sense of what they offer overall, you'll need to hop around from neighborhood to neighborhood. Each community typically has anywhere from 5 to 19 plans, so you do get a decent amount of variety once you start digging in. Now, that said, while the floor plans differ in size and layout, Pulte's homes do tend to have kind of a cohesive architectural style. So you're not going to see wild swings from farmhouse, to like ultra modern. It's more of a consistent, slightly modern, traditional look across most communities. Once you've decided on a floor plan, you're going to want to customize it, right? So let's talk about structural customization. I mean, this is the beauty of a new build, right? You start to make the home feel more personal. Well, at a minor level, okay, Pulte lets you make small changes like choosing between a garden tub or an oversized shower, swapping a pantry out for a wine room or adding sliders or extra windows. Moderate changes go a bit deeper. You can do things like shrink a closet to expand a bathroom, though that depends on structural feasibility. At a significant level, you might be able to add a third garage bay or bump out a room like the master suite or the breakfast nook. It's not always listed as an option online, okay, but some communities offer it if you ask. Now, as for supreme structural customization, Pulte doesn't go that far. Like, you're not going to be able to find your own architect and bring them in, or upload your custom floor plan, okay? You're going to need to pick from what they offer, but within those models, you can tweak a lot. Their process is pretty guided too. You can play around with the interactive floor plan tool online to make small layout changes, then loop in a sales consultant if you want to explore the bigger stuff. When it comes to design customization, now we're talking about non-structural. This is where Pulte shines. Through their online design studio and in-person design centers, you can personalize just about everything. Cabinets, countertops, flooring, lighting, paint, tile, faucets, hardware, okay, the works. Now, they don't quite offer like a Pinterest style page for design inspiration, but you do get plenty of visual references through their model homes and their blog style galleries. Now, on the tech side, all right, they've embraced smart home features too. Depending on the plan and upgrades, you can get smart thermostats, doorbell cameras, USB outlets, motion switches, electric car chargers, and smart locks. Overall, Pulte offers a really solid mix of customization, both structural and design-wise. And their digital tools help you visualize it all. And it's not a fully custom builder, all right? But for a production builder, I would say it's a grade A experience. Now let's talk about their warranties for just a minute. Pulte offers what's known as a 1-to-10 warranty, which is a pretty standard offering among large production builders. But they've added a couple of extras that make theirs stand out just a little bit more. Here's the basic structure. For your first year, you're covered in materials and workmanship, okay? And that's gonna include things like trim, drywall, paint, and flooring. Then for the first 2 years, the warranty covers your home's major mechanical systems, okay? HVAC, plumbing, electrical. So if something essential goes wrong early on, you've got protection. The big ticket part of the warranty is the 10-year structural coverage, okay? Now this kicks in for major structural components like the foundation, load-bearing walls, okay, roof framing, beams, all right, that sort of thing. That 10-year window is pretty standard in the industry, but it's still pretty important for peace of mind. Now here's where Pulte adds a nice upgrade. They offer a separate 5-year warranty specifically for water infiltration and internal leaks. Now that is rarely included with other builders, so getting 5 years of dedicated protection against one of the most costly and frustrating home issues, am I right, water damage? That is definitely a win. So overall, Pulte's warranty, well above average. Standard coverage is solid on its own, but the 5-year leak protection, it gives it an extra edge. So I would give it a straight up A+ on their warranty. One of the most important things when considering a buyer is location options, where you can actually find them across the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Pulte Homes currently offers around 181 floor plans across 15 active communities in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So that gives them a decent amount of variety to choose from. Some of the plans are exclusive to just one location, all right? But they do have collections that are repeated across multiple communities. You should know there isn't a central tool on their website that shows you where each floor plan appears. So if you're trying to track down, which neighborhoods offer the layout you want, you're gonna have to do a little manual digging, or you could also ask like a sales rep directly. Popular floor plans do tend to show up in both Dallas and the Fort Worth area neighborhoods, but again, it's inconsistent. So if flexibility of location is important to you, okay, just know that that might be a small hurdle. Geographically, most of Pulte's communities in the Dallas area are concentrated in the north and northeast suburbs in cities like Salina, McKinney, Anna, and Aubrey. These are all a bit north of downtown Dallas, and they're pretty popular with buyers. Now on the Fort Worth side, you'll find Pulte in communities like Hazlitt, Burleson, and Godley, and that gives them 3 communities to the south, southwest, and about 3 more northwest of Fort Worth. But here's the catch. Pulte is really only building on 2 sides of the Metroplex, with the majority of their neighborhoods clustered in the north. So if you're looking in the east or the west parts of the DFW area, Pulte might not have much or anything at all. So because of that imbalance, okay, I would give them a C+ for location. Okay, there's good coverage if you want to live north of Dallas, but it gets pretty limited once you start looking beyond those main pockets. But what about their volume? Now that we know where they build, how many different homes can you actually pick from? Well, across Pulte's 15 active communities in the DFW area, they currently have around 144 quick move-in homes available. That means there's roughly 9 to 10 homes per community that are either ready now or they'll be ready very soon, which isn't bad, okay, but it's not especially high compared to some other builders that we've looked at. The amount of communities and the number of homes they have is important, because many times you will fall in love with a floor plan, but then like once you get to the community, you drive in there, you look around, the location ends up being a deal killer. Like maybe it feels like it's out in the middle of nowhere, you just don't like the feel of the neighborhood. In those cases, the question becomes like, what are the odds that you'll find that same home in a different community? Well, having a decent inventory of quick move-ins helps with that flexibility. Overall, I would say Pulte's inventory is kind of middle of the road. They've got options, but not so many that you're gonna find the floor plan you like in every corner of the Metroplex. 144 quick move-in homes, it's decent, but it's a touch limited. So for that reason, we're giving them a B for quick move-in inventory, okay? Solid, but definitely not overwhelming. Let's break down where Pulte lands when it comes to pricing in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and what kind of buyer each price point is really aimed at. Now, Pulte's price range in the DFW area starts with their Parker floor plan, which comes in at a base price of around $299,000. So definitely targeted towards entry-level buyers, right, or first-time homeowners. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, one of their more expensive options is the Oak Grove floor plan, which starts at approximately $727,000. So when you look at the full spread, okay, Pulte's base pricing falls somewhere between like $300,000 to $730,000. But keep in mind, that number can climb quickly depending on the upgrades, your lot premiums, your structural choices that you make. This range gives Pulte decent coverage across a few key buyer categories. I mean, they've got homes priced for the $300,000 to $400,000 crowd, right? Which is great for smaller households or buyers trying to get into a first home. Then there's a solid selection for buyers in the $400,000 to $600,000 range, right? Families that want a bit more square footage, maybe a home office or a 3rd-car garage. And then if you're aiming even higher, okay, they do offer a few larger homes pushing past the $700,000 mark. But those are far fewer and more concentrated in specific communities. Speaking of communities, the most affordable one is Rosemary Fields, where base prices start in the low 300s. Now, if you're after something larger or more high-end, Highland Lakes is where you're going to want to look, okay? That neighborhood starts around $535,000 and stretches all the way up to the mid-700s depending on the plan and options. While Pulte does hit some key price points, the range is a bit narrow for a builder of their size, with about a $400,000 spread from their lowest to their highest base prices. It's a decent window, but you'll notice they mostly focus on mid-range homes, and that makes their pricing feel a little bit one-dimensional at the top end. So we're giving them a B- for price range variety, okay? It's not bad, it just doesn't leave you much room at all if you're looking for like a true luxury product. When it comes to reviews, Pulte Homes has kind of a mixed report card, and depending on the community, the experience can vary quite a bit. Out of the communities we looked at, the lowest rated one was Spiritus Ranch, which currently sits at a 2.9 average rating based on 7 reviews. Now, on the flip side, their highest rated community is Pinnacle at Legacy Hills with a perfect 5.0 rating, but that's only based on 3 reviews, so not exactly a massive sample size. Now let's talk about the content of those reviews, because that's where things get a little more telling, all right? One of their 1-star reviews paints a rough picture. The buyer said their sales agent didn't disclose which features were upgrades, and also that they ended up with a home full of issues, including cracks in the walls, loose flooring, and a wobbly AC slab that wasn't covered under the warranty. According to that homeowner, the warranty rep basically brushed it off and didn't follow up. And unfortunately, okay, this was not a one-off complaint. Like, I saw similar comments across multiple reviews, with buyers in different communities reporting early wear and tear and feeling really let down by the warranty support. That said, it's not all bad. One 5-star review from another community described the process as nothing short of exceptional. That buyer praised Pulte's communication, the weekly updates, and the fact that they stayed on schedule. They even said they would happily recommend the builder to others. But when you take the big picture into account, out of 12 total reviews, only 2 communities had ratings of 4.5 or higher. The other 10 were rated 4.4 or lower, meaning that over 80% of their reviewed communities scored below the 4.5 mark. So while there are some happy homeowners, okay, the consistency isn't there at all. So because of that imbalance, all right, we're giving Pulte a D for customer reviews. Some communities may shine, but overall, okay, the experience is more of a miss than a hit. And that's something that buyers definitely need to be aware of going in. All right, let's talk about their contracts for just a minute. Pulte Homes is part of the larger Pulte Group family, just like Centex. So when it comes to contracts, it makes sense that they both use the exact same one. One of the biggest issues for me is that Pulte requires buyers to put down money before they even get to see the contract. That is a huge red flag, because in my experience, okay, you should always have the chance to carefully review any contract before you commit financially. I mean, giving money up front without seeing the terms, all right, just feels risky and unfair. Like, you want to know exactly what you're agreeing to before handing over cash. When it comes to prorations, okay, those adjustments made at closing for things like property taxes, Pulte's contract states that all prorations are final, no matter if the property taxes are accurate or not. And this means if the taxes were calculated incorrectly, okay, for example, based on land value only, you're still stuck with the final proration amount. It doesn't leave room for correcting mistakes or adjustments after the fact. Now, another significant concern is the lack of appraisal protection. If the home's appraisal comes in low and you're using conventional financing, okay, you don't have any safeguards to protect yourself financially. This means if the appraisal is less than the purchase price, you might have to make up the difference out of pocket or risk losing your deposit. Finally, it is important to know that Pulte shares your personal information with third parties, okay? They disclose that right in the contract. So this could mean your contact info, you know, your personal details, personal data, all of that might be passed around without your direct control. All these factors combined make Pulte's contract more than just a bit one-sided, okay? Especially if they're gonna require money to change hands before you even see the contract. So if I had to give their contracts a grade based on these points, okay, I would say it deserves a B. There is definitely room for improvement to make the process more transparent, fair, and buyer-friendly. So you've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of buying with Pulte Homes in Dallas. Now, if you thought that was eye-opening, okay, just wait, because we have a full playlist that dives deep into all kinds of other builders so you can make smart, data-backed decisions without the guesswork, because you don't want to go rushing into a huge investment blindfolded. So hit those YouTube points right here, and I'll see you there.